With Season 11 coming out, I've been having a hard time in my games. Stuff just doesn't click like it used to. Unless of course you're playing Kayle. Kayle is everything you could want in a champion, and the new items make her even better. Kayle is a holy, dual-wielding, super scaling beast. See, the thing about Kayle is that she's not a super bully like every champion is. She's more of a grower than shower, if you know what I mean. Early game it feels like you're hitting them with wet noodles, but late game, oh buddy, look out. Kayle's flailing her swords around with fire coming off them and you just die. What's interesting about Kayle is that she starts the game melee. Once she reaches 6, she gains ranged in her auto attacks. This really allows her to become a champion. Because let's face it, if she stayed in melee the whole game, she would not be a champion picked ever. Her auto attacks also stack up to 5 times, giving her bonus attack speed and flames once she reaches level 11. More on that later. Kayle's Q shoots at a short blade. Enemies hit are slowed, take damage, and have their resistances shredded. Once you get a few points into this bad boy, it really slows them down, so you can literally just run behind them and auto them to death. Kayle's W is literally just summoner heal. You press W and you get healed and sped up. It also applies to the nearest ally. Late game the speed really kicks in with all the AP you might have. So you slow them with Q, and then you W to speed yourself, and you literally just run them down. And nobody complains about getting a little heal. Kayle's E shoots off an auto attack that has increased speed. It also deals missing health damage. Before you hit 6, this ability is ranged. So every 8 seconds or so, you get a free ranged attack, which is nice for farming. The skill doesn't cost mana, so you can literally just farm with it. Before it used to cost AP, and that was horrible, let me tell you. I think this little change made Kayle so much better. Before you'd have to spend all your mana just on farming, and then you just got your ass beat because you didn't have any mana to do anything. At level 11 your E will also explode, dealing AoE damage. This is extremely good for farming. And did I mention that her E is an auto attack reset? So time it right and you can attack really fast. Kayle's R lets you select a target and make them vulnerable for a couple seconds. After a short delay, damage will be dealt around the target. Kayle can't attack during her ult animation. Kayle's ult is really good. Like, a good Kayle ult can literally win you the game. Being able to ult the ADC, or whoever is carrying that game. It also deals a nice little bit of damage once the explosion goes off. Now I'm sure of you, 95% of the people watching this know what her stuff does. That's why we're going to take you in to see some tips and tricks. And if you haven't yet, be sure to subscribe. That's the biggest power spike. Alright, let's see some tips. If you decide to go AD Kayle, Kraken Slayer isn't too bad as your mythic item. Every third auto will deal bonus true damage. And Kayle stacks attack speed anyway, so you can really proc it a lot. With her auto attack reset, she can do a lot of damage in a short amount of time. If your team doesn't need the AD, Riftmaker is extremely good on Kayle. Last year, when Kayle got reworked, her flames did true damage. And this item kinda brings it back. After a few seconds in combat, Kayle will deal bonus true damage on all of her attacks. With all of her attack speed and her mixed damage, this is really good for shredding enemies. So if you're going AP, this is the item to rush. It has everything you really need. It's the same thing as Gunblade, but instead of a slow, you get a nice chunk of damage. The honorable mention for a mythic item is Immortal Shield Ball. This item is really good if you end up falling behind. It gives lifesteal, crit, and if you fall below a certain amount of health, you get bonus lifesteal and a big ass shield. This is a good item if you start falling behind or the team is full of assassins, like Rengar, Kha'Zix, Kayn. It really stops them in their tracks trying to kill you. Try taking down a Kayle with invulnerability and a big ass shield. Cosmic Drive is pretty interesting. Damaging an enemy with an ability will give you some movement speed. I think this item has really good potential on Kayle as she just runs at you anyway. Her auto attack flames also count as an ability for this case, so just autoing them will give you increased movement speed. I've found success using this item. Of course, every item is situational. If you don't find you're having a hard time sticking on people, don't bother. Rylai's Crystal Scepter is also a good choice if you need to have a little more survivability and need to catch people. And of course, Hourglass, the classic item on Kayle. What's better than being invulnerable for a couple seconds? Being invulnerable for a couple more seconds. Hourglass is always a good item on mages. This is probably to build against assassins, unless you're really far behind like I mentioned before. Being able to make yourself immune to damage is really helpful during a fight. Asher's Tooth is a staple in every AP Kayle build. It gives attack speed, AP, and on-hit damage. What more could you want on an attack speed character? If you're going AP, this has to be in your build. If you end up trying out AD Kayle, I recommend just starting Tear of the Goddess. This item lets you scale into a late game monster. Once you get enough stacks on it, it evolves into Mana Moon and then Maramuna. This gives you a bunch of AD and an extra on-hit effect that deals more damage. Building tier, you won't have any mana problems, which is pretty nice. Not that Kayle really has many. Seriously though, you build Maramona and just get attack speed, that's literally all you need to shred down most enemies. An example AD Kayle build is attack speed boots, Maramona, Kraken Slayer, Blade of the Ruined King, Bloodthirster, and Rage Blade. These items give you a lot of attack speed and healing, not to mention all the on-hit effects. With the changes to Phantom Dancer, I think it's a really good item, AD or not. After landing 5 auto attacks, you gain 40% bonus attack speed. This is wild. You already scale up anyway with attack speed with your passive, so once you get 5 stacks, you'll gain even more. It also gives you some crit, which is nice, because your auto attacks and your fire waves can actually crit. The ghosting effect you gain from Phantom Dancer is good for chasing down enemies. Kayle just has a lot of options this season, it's great. I find myself building Phantom Dancer in 95% of my games, just of how good it is right now. With this item, you can reach the 2.5 attack speed cap really easily. With all the options available, I don't really build Blitzbane too often. It's not that it's a bad item, I just feel like there's better items out there. But as I said, do as you will. If you like the item, then by all means go for it. Lastly for items, Runaan's Hurricane and Rapid Fire Cannon are pretty good items. Runaan's lets you deal more AoE damage, and Rapid Fire gives you some more range so you can execute even farther away with your E. I forgot to mention Rage Blade. Rage Blade isn't bad, it's interesting. It gives you crit and attack speed but locks out your critical chance. It also gives you double on-hit effects every 3rd hit. Although Kayle's fire waves don't actually get applied, so the item isn't as great as it was, I don't believe, but it's still a situational item. I'll pick it up every once in a while. It is worthy to note that if you do a Rapid Fire Cannon and level 16, you are able to auto-attack the Baron once. This is due to the bonus range that Kayle gets once she reaches level 16. So if Baron is low and you have your E, you might be able to snag and execute with it. Kayle's Q gets casted where she was when she pressed it. That means you can cast it, flash, and it will be casted exactly where she was, not where she is now. This is good for getting the drop on an enemy. You're probably wondering about rune pages. Don't worry, I have you covered. The page I most regularly take is Press the Attack. It is so easy to practice on Kayle and it gives so much extra damage, it's just always worth it. I also like picking up Overheal. You gain a little shield with the excess healing you gain, which is nice for fights. I don't find Triumph and the changes to Presence of Mind too great, so Alacrity for the bonus attack speed, this is wonderful on Kayle. And I take Coup de Grace for the execute damage. Everybody likes execute damage. Kayle has a lot of options for her secondary tree. It just depends on how you're feeling. You can go Ravenous Hunter, Taste of Blood, Time Warp Tunic and Biscuit Delivery, Time Warp and Boots Delivery. You can take Bone Plating and Revitalize, Mana Flow Band and Gathering Storm. It comes down to playstyle most of the time. I personally like to go Taste of Blood at Ravenous Hunter. Taste of Blood is just all around a really safe option to take, and you can use it with your E to poke early. And with the changes to Ravenous Hunter with Omnivamp, you almost get the same healing you'd get from Gunblade back in the day. There are a couple other situational builds you could take. You could go Lethal Tempo if you're really looking to scale into the late game. Fleet Footwork's really safe if you're fighting a super bully top. And you have Phase Rush. Phase Rush is a godsend if you're fighting Darius. Take it every time you're fighting Darius. I don't want to hear it, take it. Trust me, you'll thank me. I say top lane, but you can take Kayle basically anywhere. She's a pretty good mid, and she can support if she needs to. Kayle is just versatile like that, and I really like her. Being able to single-handedly carry a game in your hand is something that no other champion can do so easily. I just wanted to say thanks for watching the video. If you haven't yet, be sure to like and subscribe, it really helps me out. Let's get me to 1,000 subs so I can get that sweet, sweet ad revenue.